So we've been talking about epithelial tissue as a lining tissue. So now this is going to be talking about glandular epithelial tissue. So this is the tissue that lines glands. So we're going to talk about different types of glands. Again, this should be continuing on that handout that was given to you in class. And so the first type of gland that we're going to talk about is an endocrine gland. So endocrine has the word prefix endo in it, and so that's important. So endo means these glands are going to work inside your system and they do not excrete to the outside. So in fact, they have to be close to a blood supply because they secrete into your system and it gets into your blood supply. So they secrete directly into surrounding tissue and fluid. They do not excrete to the surface. So endos stay within inside. There are no ducts. We say they're ductless, meaning they don't have a system that pipes it out to the outside. They are always located near a blood supply because once it gets into that fluid, then it will end up in our blood system to take to different parts of our body. And you will learn endocrine system. The whole endocrine system will be your first unit in A&P too. So those key takeaways for endocrine glands is they secrete into the tissue and fluid itself. There's no duct and they're always near blood supply. Example would be any of your glands from your endocrine system. So I just put pituitary gland, but you could have any of your other glands, your hypothalamus gland, your thymus gland, etc. So, and there's a picture of all your glands there you'll be learning in A&P too. So that's the endocrine system, but they have endocrine glands, again lined with epithelial tissue. So exocrine, so EXO, has that prefix exo. Exo means out. So these are going to secrete out onto the surface, and for them to be able to secrete outside of the body, they have to have ducts. And so we're going to see a ducting system. Think of like pipes that get water from one spot to another, or air ducts in a building. And so some examples are your sweat glands and your sebaceous glands, which are your oil glands. Those are exocrine glands. And so we're going to learn the different types of exocrine, because again, you're going to hit endocrine really hard in A&P too. So we're going to focus on exocrine glands. And so this is just showing a picture, and so this little picture here looks like a cuboidal. Can you see that? And this is the duct, and it would secrete whatever it's secreting, and it would go out to the surface there. So your types of exocrine. There are 3 types, and this is hard for students, and we're going to look at that picture that's going to go with this. Okay, so our first type is called American secretion or American gland. You can stop this video and write this down. But this is the most common type. So basically what happens here is these cells in this tissue, remember the cells, a bunch of cells connected together make tissue, they're going to secrete into basically like a bubble or vesicle, and then that is going to move to the apical side, which is the top portion of the cells, and then that is going to release through exocytosis. Remember, exocytosis is like spitting up. So it gets into a little bubble, moves to the apical side, the surface, and then it will basically spit up. What I want you to understand about this is no part of the cell is destroyed during American secretion. Think about, sometimes maybe you don't feel good and you'll throw up and then, you feel better. So that's kind of what's happening with these American secretions. They basically spit up and then they feel better and they're not hurt. The cell itself is not hurt during this. This is what happens with our sweat glands. They're American secretion. Important for us to know that. So our next type is known as an apocrine secretion or an apocrine gland. So on this one, the top portion of the cell just pinches off and is released. So it is destroying part of the cell, but not the entire cell, just a portion of the cell. And it is the top portion is being pinched off and released. Your mammary gland is what will do apocrine seclusion. So merocrine, no part of the cell is hurt. It stays merry. A portion, see apocrine, a portion, top portion of it is secreted in apocrine, and then our last type is known as holocrine. A holocrine secretion, the whole cell basically ruptures and is secreted, and when that happens, a new cell has to replace it. So holocrine, the whole entire, that's how you can remember it, the whole entire cell ruptures and the whole cell is destroyed, and so a new cell would have to take its place. So we're going to see this with our oil glands in our skin and our hair. So our sweat glands, merocrine, apocrine, mammary glands, and we'll talk about these. You have two different types of sweat glands. You do have one that's merocrine, and then your mammary glands, and then your sebaceous. So here is just a picture showing the three main types. And so merocrine, so basically they are in a bubble and it will exocytose and it goes out, spits up, all good. Apocrine, we're seeing a top portion of this will pinch off and that will get secreted. Holocrine, this whole thing will get secreted out. So in your note page, I gave you this next picture so for you to be able to see. So let's pick merocrine first. That's the one in the middle here, the yellow. And so all it's happening is these little bubbles are just coming to the surface and then they're coming up. Nothing is happening to that cell. Do you see where it says intact cell? So these cells stay happy. Nothing happens to them. So over here in apocrine, you can't, I don't know if you can tell, it says pinches off a portion, pinched off portion of the cell. So a top portion of it is pinching off the whole thing and then it's coming up and being released. Here on holocrine, we are seeing the entire cell is being destroyed, disintegration cells and its content. And this is mitosis happening. See, you can see that metaphase going on with this one. And so the new cell is replacing the cell that might have just gone up there. So that is our types of exocrine glands and the three types of secretion from those glands. And you do need to know those different types.